Dāgī sē chī dāg lē tī mō miñ bā yā rāb sō nē. Kā dāng yā tēn chī yung lō yā tōg bā yī lō dī yā pō pē yā nāng wā yā tsē tō yī sō yī. Sāng jī yā chō dāng tsōg jī yā chō nām lā yī chāng chō pār tō yā dāng nē kia sō yī chī. Dāgī chī shē gī pē yā sē nām chī ndō lā yā pēn chī sāng jī yā ndō pā rī. Sāng jī yā chō dāng yā tsōg jī yā chō nā yā lā yā chāng chō pār tō yā dāng nē kia sō yī. Dāgī chī shē gī pē yā sē nām chī ndō lā yā pēn chī jī yā ndō pā rī shō yī. Sāng jī yā chō dāng tsōg jī yā chō nā yā chāng chō pār tō yā dāng nē kia sō yī. Dāgī chī shē gī pē yā sē nām chī ndō lā yā pēn chī rā ndō pā rī shō yī. Sēm chī yā tam chī dēwā yā tāng dēvē dēm pā rā yā chūr chī yā. Dō ngā yā tāng dō ngā yā kī jō tāng yā chā wā rā yā chū. Dō ngā mē bē dēwā yā tāng pā yā tāng mē ndā wā rā yā chū. Nye rē yā chāw tāng yā nye tāng yā chā wē yā tāng nyō yā chēng pā lā nē pā rā yā chū rō yā chī. Sēm chē yā tāng chē yā dē wā tāng dē wē gyō tāng yā dēm pā rā yā chī. Dō ngā yā tāng dō ngā lā kē gyō tāng yā chā wā rā yā. Dō ngā lā mē bē dē wā yā tāng pā yā tāng mē ndā lā wā rā yā chū. Nye rē yā chāw tāng yā nye tāng chā wē yā tāng nyō yā chēng pā lā nē pā rā yā chū rō yā chī. Sēm chē yā tam chē yā dē wā tāng dē wē gyō tāng yā dēm pā rā yā chū. Dō ngā yā tāng dō ngā yā kē gyō tāng yā chā wā rā yā chū chī. Dō ngā lā mē bē dē wā yā tāng pā yā tāng mē ndā lā wā rā yā chū. Nye rē yā chāw tāng nye tāng yā chā wē yā tāng nyō yā chēng pā lā nē pā rā yā chū rō yā chī. Let's sit in meditation for a little bit. morning. In order to, pay the kindness of his mother, Buddha decided to travel to the, realm of the God realm. It's called 33 God realm, three astramsa. As we all know that his mom died a week after he was born, so he didn't have any time to, say thank you. So he wanted to say thank you and repay our kindness. Then, according to our story, then he, went to the realm of the Tushita. No, not Tushita. Three astrams are the 33 God realm, Sumchitsaksam. While he was there, then it's famously known that he gave the gods, including his mother, the teaching on Abhidharma. Please don't think that he was teaching her about 5 aggregates, tahyatanas, not like this. It means he went there to teach her the view of the gods. Anyways, so while he was there, then there was this god, and he was about to die. And as we all know, gods, they actually, before a week before they die, they sense their rebirth. They can clearly see where they are going to be born. So he was going to be born in a very, very bad, birth. And he was very, very afraid of that. So then at that point of time, Buddha was giving what we call as the refuge vow, actually. Chapsum in beginning, anyway. So he was afraid, and Buddha said, don't worry, just come to this occasion where I'm going to do that. So he went, and he got that refuge vow, but it's actually refuge vow of the Genyin refuge vow. In the end, we say, I want to become Genyin, so to speak. Anyway, so when he was given that, then, his karma that was postponed, so to speak, and then he was actually born as a very good human. From there, he again was born as a god. So the story here is that just by keeping that, vow of the refuge vow for maybe a week or less, really protected him from going into the 3 lower realms, so to speak. Now imagine if you, keep any kind of vow, so to speak, be it like this Nyungne vow, or be it, no, it's not Nyungne, it's Sojong vow, or, refuge vow, Bodhisattva vow, any of the liberation vows. They have this merit that's really inevitable, so to speak, and they will inevitably bring you the merit. We need to know that, so the karma is a seed, and the way that really we can stop it from coming, there are only, let's say, 3 things or 2 things, right? First, I need to experience that, and then that's how it will come to an end. The other actually is we need to destroy the seed. So if you destroy the seed, then it will never ripe. So the way of destroying that is sogyong, meaning like you do the purification and you do the, you do the repairing of the damaged transgressions of the vows, and this is how, then the karma will not be ripened. So therefore, you can think of the sogyong just as not keeping of the vow as well as the sogyong both. Sogyong really helps a lot in terms of we never know, it is pretty sure that there is this infinite karma in the state of our mind that we don't want, but they are there, but they are in the infinite number, in the more than infinite number. Especially, karma from transgressions of the vows. You may not be a monk or nun or anybody from that vow in this life, but in your previous lifetimes and life from before that, you you may have been them, and then you 100% have graced all those vows. So there are all these. We should never think that that it is about this life. It's never about this life. In 35 Buddha practice, or generally when we do the purification, you remember how we do it. We say, the karma that I have accumulated in the past, for example. The karma that I don't remember, but I'm very sure I've accumulated in the immemorial lifetime of the beginningless lifetime that I had so far. It's one way of doing that. The other, we say that karma that I'm doing in this very moment on my own, and the karma that I have really made others to do on my behalf. And then, karma that I've accumulated, both, in this case, negative, because we are doing the purification, that I have admired, that I have, enjoyed. Bad karmas, you enjoy other people, you admire that, So these three things, karma that you do on your own, karma that you, make others to do on your behalf, and then karma you accumulate by admiring, by enjoying, by praising actually. You even praise them. So these are the three ways how we accumulate both the good and the bad karma, correct? So here when we are doing the purification in the Sojong part, it actually says in the Sojong vow, right? It is written there. So you just need to, read that out and think that. We need to be very meticulous when it comes to the purification. I already said that in the first day. We do not want to hold back anything. We do not want to kind of hide anything at all. When I'm doing that purification, I'm doing that imaginary. There are the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all of them, they are imaginary. But nonetheless, they are. And then there is the Khenpo, whoever is leading that Khenpo. And then, of course, the Sangha. So in presence of all of them, then I do my purification by almost listing, mentioning, every single actions, that I have accumulated, those are against the vows. It's very important to say that, in the book it says, the karma that I've accumulated, those are against the vows of the liberation vows, that are against the bodhisattva vows, and then those, are against the Vajrayana vows, so all of them. This is how you want to say it. And then, of course, we mentioned them. Karmas like 10 negative actions, karmas like 5 very heinous kind of karma, 5 very close heinous kind of karma, all of that, So we list them. We actually mention them literally. It's a very profound way of doing the purification, so to speak. So, and in this way, then, when that vow or that merit that we have, let's say earlier on, due to all these transgressions, it's weakened. Okay, you have done a lot of good things by practicing dharma through your body, through your speech, through your mind, engaging in 6 kind of paramitas, but in your own way, in a very mundane, but in a very noble way. So you have that. But somehow, then those are sort of now under the influence of these very heavy emotions, these very heavy, clouded mind, and very heavy negative impressions of the karma. They're under, influence of that. So they are weakened in a way. You can see that. And now, after when you do Sojong, what is happening is that then actually Sojong then weakens and it also purifies all of that karma. And in turn, my merit, let's say, sunam, that accumulated by engaging in the 6 paramitas, learning, reflecting, meditating, wonder, anything whatsoever, taking of refuge, cultivating bodhicitta, receiving of the empowerment, every single thing counts. Even if you gave a food to a dog, it counts actually. Anything that's born out of the goodness of your heart, however tiny, however less of the senses, There's a meditation called meditating on actually it's called restraining the five doors. Restraining the five doors from engaging in negative actions with mindfulness and awareness. So these are for our own sake. So therefore, now you can see how important the sojong is, because during the sojong time, this is when you can, open up and you can say it out literally, like anything that I might have done that I do not remember, however tiny it might be. Today, in the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, I'm going to do that purification, and please support me for that. That's what we are saying, correct? And it's important. You must do the sojong, the purification of those things. In the third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje's life story, when the Dakinis, like I said, when they requested him and when he was not exactly accepting that, then there is a part where he says that, that he says, now I will see you and all sentient beings who now follow the Buddha Dharma during the time of the fifth Buddha Maitreya. And there we'll meet again, and then we'll, then I'll share, I'll teach, so to speak. What that meant is, in my understanding, that if there is a question like, when do you think that we might also become Buddha? What time that might be. So this is what it meant in this case. From what I understood, I'm not confirming it, but this is how I understood, read in the sutras, Karmapa says, many actual scholars say this, that us, whoever is now following the Buddha Dharma in our own way, and whoever has this connection to the Buddha Dharma, so during the kalpa of the fifth Buddha, Maitreya, we will be born in the universe of the Buddha Maitreya. And this is when we will have our own result, like actual result, in terms of liberation of the, let's say, Charvaka, Arhat, Bodhisattva, Buddha, whoever is to become whoever. This, he says, is the time when all of our effort will pay off, actually. It does not mean we have to necessarily wait until that time, okay? But in general, let's say, I'm guessing most of us, it's not we are waiting. It's just that, that's how it's actually going to be. And then, of course, during the sixth, when Karmapa comes, we always call fifth, sixth, I don't know about the number. This number it doesn't really matter. But then again, Tukasingitsen we call it, when Karmapa appears as a Buddha, then there is without any doubt, because our connection to them. So these are the, let's say, kalpa or time when whatever we are doing today here in this very moment will pay off. 100%ly pay off, actually. So please do not think that, that there is no result. Another thing, I may have said this again, I'm saying this again, that karma is not like, a fast food. It's not like a noodle. You put in there, you put hot water, and it's ready in the next second. It never functions this way. Karma is like walking around the Mount Meru. It takes months and years to finish it. It's not like running around like this, in a second. It doesn't do that. So therefore, what I'm saying is that we are ordinary people, not in a negative way. Ordinary people is fine. It's okay to be an ordinary person. There's nothing wrong with that. We are ordinary person. And, therefore, let's say we think that our expectation is, little bit not right. I do not mean to say we cannot expect. You can, of course, you should. But then I, for example, expect that, I do my practice now, and then as soon as I finish it, I must have the result. It's like making a tea. This is not how it will work at all, really. And then we also think that, you do this thing, and you kind of something good happens, or you think, oh yes, there's power, something good. It never was because of what you did just now. And then you go somewhere and you think like this, oh no, I saw some lama, something, and because now I feel good. That's just your illusion thing, actually. It doesn't work that way. I'm not saying there is not. Everything takes, as for the karma, but there are some karma that can be ripened instantaneously also. But those are very difficult to accumulate. For example, the realization of emptiness. Of course. You know why? Because actually, karma can be ripened as soon as it is performed. And it happens with the bodhisattvas. You wonder why? Because there is nothing that stops that karma from ripening at all. Why? Because they do not have any kind of kleshas, do they? No. Here I am with all the kleshas. And this kleshas is what is delaying the ripening of that karma. If I want that karma to ripe, I have to make space for that karma. There is no space for that karma to ripe. So we have to wait, like blind person. Maybe it's not a good example, but until, the condition comes around. So anyways, but nonetheless, if it is a seed, if it is a karma, like, we talk about the karma, remember that there are many different characteristics of the karma. One of the characteristic of the karma is that it is infallible. It's 100% infallible. It will, sooner or later, regardless of the time, if that karma is still there, it will ripe. We have many life stories like that, remember? Like also Ashoka even. And then there are many. Like this, cute story that we tell about a pig and who? A dog, I guess, yeah? Pig and dog. Someone was chasing somebody, and then they just accidentally happened to run around the stupa. It's the story we tell. But that was aeons and aeons, billions of aeons before. Okay, no, the story, I have to tell the story, I guess. In Saravasti, I'm thinking, there was this, household. Well, there was this person who was, almost 100 years old, and he decided that now he wants to become a monk, if I remember correctly, something like this. Anyways, so to make the story short, he is accepted and all this and everything. So then I think Buddha, tells either Shariputra or Mangalputra, one of them, maybe let's say Mangalputra, if I remember correctly, just, give him teachings, whatever he needs. Shariputra does that. So then he has to give teaching according to what the capacity of that person was. And then he doesn't find any seed in him at all. This to making the story short. So then he goes to Buddha and says, no, he does not really have any seed. What I'm supposed to do? This is a good story to say that, the difference between the wisdom of the arhats, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. For the arhats, they can go, to some extent, to maybe to infinite, but it's not unlimited, So anyway, then Buddha says, no, he has. So this is when he tells the story, the pig and the dog kind of thing, Says, no, there is. I really don't remember who he was, but he was one of them. It didn't matter, both ran around the stupa, I'm guessing, But then there are many other stories also, Maybe I may be the same way. Who knows? I'm telling the story. Maybe I am the same way. So therefore, I'm telling this story to remind us that we really have to do the purification. Dorje Sempa practice is very, very important. Please do it as much as you can. Don't worry about the number. I'm not asking you to finish 100,000. Actually, 100,000, like I said before, is really minimum. I mean, you in your entire life, if you did only 100,000, you wasted your time, I'm guessing. Completely wasted your time. What does you mean you did 100,000 in like 60 years, 50 years? What did you do the rest of the year then? You finished in 6 months, and what about the rest of it? So no. But when you do this with the goodness of your heart. Don't worry about understanding something, not where to place the Vajra. Who's that? Where to place the Vajrasata? Should he be white or should he be whiter? Should he have Vajra? Or don't worry about that. It's just a symbolic thing. Okay? Don't worry about it. Don't worry thinking, that whether something is clear or not clear, or the sound is clear or not clear. It's not about that. So when we do that, let's say, as soon as you do it, it's actually present. It's present there. Like when you think of something, it's already present there, isn't it? How can it not be present? It's together with the mind. If you think of flower, as soon as you think, the flower, image of that flower is already in your mind. Just like that. So when you think of Dorje Sempa, as soon as you say it, it's there. You say mom, before you finish the last word, M, it's already there, correct? So it's same like saying Dorje Sempa. Mom, Dorje Sempa, same thing, no? No, so anyhow, we are doing this with a lot of things actually. There's a lot of renunciation, there's a bodhicitta, and especially, I think, this is more the power of actually devotion, mukhu. We say word devotion, I'm using it. I don't know what other terms to use, but the mukhu. That is what is the most important. There is this confidence in you, there's a trust in you. At the same time, there is this huge, you value it so much. So therefore, those whole thing makes it very precious. Whatever you're doing, it makes it very precious. So those are important, to do the purification of that. The karmas, and at the same time, we do really need to, accumulate merit as much as we can, to establish our future. Okay, so the means to do that are many, especially with all these kind of, vows that you take. When you do sojong or you do nyungne, for the lay people, those are, advisable opportunity to do that. So yes, those are things that we want to keep in our mind. Something maybe tomorrow, because now I really want to go through the book. So I'm going to continue reading the book, the root text. I'm reading the root text so that we don't miss out, any word that come up, Rangjun Dorje has said. Okay. So, all right. So now, excuse me. Yeah, I should tell that story actually. So when I was going to say Karmapa, when Buddha was in the God realm of the Triyastrimsa God realm. In Saravasti, Prasanajit is the name of the king, Salgyal we call it. He missed Buddha so much. So then he asked, an artist to make an image of Buddha. It looks like Buddha, exactly like Buddha, So he made it and he put it there where Buddha usually used to sit. All right? And because there was no one, that he could seek advice from. And then when Buddha returned, this is what we call Lababtuchen, the descending of the Buddha from the Triyastrimsa realm of the God, 33 God realm. There is actually a place here, It's not so far, but yet far. In India, everything's far, actually, So anyways, when he came back, when he returned to Saravasti, New Year, it is said that when Buddha walked in, the image of the Buddha walked out. And the Buddha says, no, you do not want to do that. Once when I've gone, then they will have no one. So you must remain here even when I'm gone, like literally when I'm gone. This is the story we tell, actually. So I just wanted you to know. Some of you may have visited Saravasti, some of you may have not. So in future, if you get a chance to do that, please go and visit Saravasti. It's a very, very important place for us. For Buddha spent 25 years of his life there. So therefore, anyways. Now I will definitely read the root text. The relationship between the mental consciousness and the mental phenomena is like the experience of a dream. The mind focuses on phenomena and becomes attached to them, but they are devoid of any true reality. Okay? I probably spoke a little bit on that last time, yesterday, but anyway, so yes, again, we are talking here, that how mind. So when we say mind, how eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, along with the mental consciousness, brings about all of our experience of the life. And what kind of role they play in bringing this, let's say, manifestations of the world is what we are actually learning, like I said before. So here, this mental faculty that he talked about, it's really a little bit too difficult to grasp, actually. I might have said this before too. There is for example, for eye consciousness, we have the eye sense faculty. So the eye sense faculty is physical. It's this eyeball, but it's not, I'm guessing not the eyeball, but inside somewhere in this eyeball. And the rest of the nose, tongue, and everything, we know that they are more of physical, so it's not a problem in there. But when it comes to the mind, what let's say, I have this habit, the continuity of the mind, is there because of so-called mental faculty. What it meant is that the very last moment of my present consciousness, triggers the very first moment of the next moment of the consciousness, correct? That very last moment, of the consciousness actually is called, the mental faculty. At the same time, it also then stores the mental impression into the mind too. So it has this function of triggering the upcoming moment, and then planting or leaving the impression of that immediate past moment of the consciousness. Roughly this is how you can understand that. So this is why yesterday I was talking about, how we can trace back our mind all the way to the previous lifetimes. So I'm not going to say this again, but it's actually really very easy in reality. The mind stream, the continuity of the mind, there is this uninterrupted state of the mind, is because of that mental. When we say faculty, it's not a physical at all, it is mental. We call Yichu Wangpo. Anyway, it does mean mental faculty. So their relation, of course, relation, there has to be relation between them. It's actually cause and effect. The former is the cause, and later are the result is cause and effect. Another thing about this is, like, for example, I consciousness is not a thought. Is I consciousness a thought or not? If I would ask you guys, you would say it's not a thought. And this is true, it's not a thought. But then the thought comes in the subsequent moment, in the very immediate next thing that you experience is a thought. Thought meaning, let's say you see a particular thing, and then you think there's a thought, oh, this is a tree, this is a flower, that thought. So that thought is as you can see, is induced actually by that, I consciousness. First, the very I conscious, all of the sense consciousness are one moment. It's just one fresh moment. That one fresh moment is something that we actually do not really experience. It's called non-conceptualized. Non-conceptualized. Present moment, like I was saying yesterday, is present. Then the very immediate thoughts are thoughts, like we say concept of this, concept of that, is the doing of the mental consciousness that is particularly associated with the I consciousness if it is regarding, a form, correct? But if it is regarding a sound, it is the function of mental consciousness, but one that is induced by ear consciousness, for example. Sound, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, all that. That is not the doing of the ear consciousness. Ear consciousness simply hears it, that's it. But then this, other thoughts or concepts, we can say that it's created regarding that object is the doing of the mental consciousness. Okay, that's mental consciousness. So more or less we know that. So without the mental consciousness, then actually we are Buddha from that point of view, correct? We are really Buddha without the mental consciousness, so to speak. Or there will be no grasping. All of the grasping and everything is happening because of the concept, because of the mental consciousness. It's engagement, in these things. So, all right, let's move on. Yes, so the example of the dream is very easy. Like the experience of a dream, the mind focuses on phenomena and becomes attached to them in reality. But they are devoid of any true reality. This is, again, to help us to understand, actually to help us to get rid of the attachment. A thought is not a reality, is it? A thought of this being table, that's not a table. Thought is thought a table or not? Because thought does not have the function of a table, so to speak. So it's a reality in that sense. It has to have a function in that way. Like in dream, anything that we see in the dream, you see it, you feel it, you experience it, but there is no reality to that. So likewise, anything that is created, that is manifested by this deluded mind, there is no reality to that. But this is, in comparison, or we can say, like, again, I'm going to say this again so that you remember. The two things we need to remember, like, the relative cognitive or cognition and the absolute cognition. It's very important to that. We really have to keep them separate in this way. So whenever we talk about emptiness and selflessness and all that, we are not talking, regarding or concerning the conventional cognition at all. We do not want to touch it. And we can actually do nothing about it also, so to speak, okay? And when we talk about karma, law, rebirth, Buddha, teaching, anything, then we're talking from the conventional point of view only. And then to this conventional point, it exists. But it exists only from a conventional existence point of view only. So both are true from that point of view, right? In this regard, so to speak. For example, even the path, to enlightenment, the bodhisattva bhumis, what do you think it is? It's conventional. But that conventional leads you to the absolute. This is why Chandrakirti says, that conventional truth are like the staircase, which will help you to climb, to the top. Without that, you cannot reach there, arrive there. So method, right? They are method. We use this method, and then we arrive to the absolute. So we need them, actually. Without the help of this, how do you think we will accomplish bodhicitta, actually, without the conventional, everything is conventional, correct? Sentient beings are conventional. But sentient beings are the reason why are we able to experience bodhicitta, why are we able to accomplish discipline, why are we are able to accomplish all the paramitas, especially like generosity. So that's conventional. So you can see how important this is. It's not something you have to abandon completely. The different emotion, yes. I'm not saying that you have to adopt the emotions. But then all the rest of the things, we need that. Because without that, there is no, arriving, or there's no, getting to the absolute also as well. It's like, but at the same time, I'm thinking, there is this also a transition in that very conventional state. There is a transition. For example, the conventional state of a bodhisattva is nothing like my conventional state of the mind. Yet it is a conventional state of the mind, right? So there is a transition in this. Like it becomes more and more subtle, more and more subtle, more and more illusion-like, more and more illusion-like, more and more illusion-like. And yet, they play a very important role in getting you to that state of the absolute. So yes, anyhow, in general, because we don't want to mix this. If we mix it, we'll not understand that. We are like, oh, it's contradiction. I'm saying it's not a contradictory at all, because it's spoken from two different viewpoints, not from one viewpoint. When Buddha said there is suffering, there is pain, there is karma, right? He taught that in what? Four Noble Truths. And then he started saying there is no eye, no nose, no tongue, no body, all of that. He said there is no path, there is no wisdom in Heart Sutra. Read the Heart Sutra again. And then you want, oh, this is nihilism. It's not a nihilism. Absolute is a bit scary, I'm telling you. But at the same time, very enjoyable. Because you think, then you understand, that is what I really want. That really is what is the freedom. That really is the freedom. Again, we always get fixated, all the time. I need something to hold on. You don't. This is what we're saying all the time. So yes, like in Heart Sutra, no path, no cessation, no wisdom. It's already said that. It's not nihilism. But that's again, like I said, in emptiness, Buddha says, the, Alokeshwara says, in emptiness, meaning from the point of view of the absolute wisdom, omniscient wisdom, or from the point of view of the Bodhisattva's meditative wisdom, to that wisdom, it is true. It's absolutely beyond all of these things that we are talking, samsara, nirvana, Buddha, path, absolute, no absolute, beyond that. We need to go beyond that. So there are these things that we need flexible, like I was saying earlier. We should try to gather as much as we can knowledge, it's good. But don't worry about anything in terms of, like thinking. Just don't mix up things too much, just let them be. There's no need for things to mix up. And don't give yourself too much, pressure, thinking, trying to do something. When you cannot do, that means you simply can't do, and you should not do it. It's 100% true, you cannot do it. But you cannot do it now. Doesn't mean you can't do it forever. Okay? Things like that. Anyhow, so I'm going to move on because all right. These six consciousnesses, the appearance of the sensory objects and the beings, the attachment to self, cognition, whatever appearances are manifested, are not created by anything which is other than themselves. They are not created by themselves, nor created by both self and others, nor by the absence of the both. We actually already talked about that, but I think here Kamapa Rangjudor just sort of saying it again, kind of doing the summary here again. This is here, it says emptiness. It's explaining the emptiness. So there was, in the very beginning, he raised this question saying that, what do you think caused the samsara? Buddha kind of raised that question. And then there were all these answers. Some say they are self-product, some say they're production of others, some think that it's production of both self and others. And then, of course, there are many, many religions who think it's, there is a God, creator God. And then there's something, no, there's no need for that. It's just, there is no cause at all. So human beings, we have unlimited concept. It's not limited in this, actually, okay? We have unlimited concept. So therefore, I'm thinking everyone may have their own, own thought regarding that, actually, so to speak. They're nonetheless. So here, in summary, he's saying this. But again, there are two ways of understanding that. From the conventional point of view, everything is mind. Everything is created by karma, mind, and klesha. That's it. This is how we understood that. But from the absolute point of view, then there's nothing, actually, in that point of view, right? There is no mind. Mind do not exist. Klesha do not exist. So there are these other things that we need to understand. Here, Kamapa is also being very, very like straightforward. Sometimes they're very because there is not too many things to say, actually. It's just very straightforward. Do not need to go too much into that. Why argue when there's nothing to argue? It's pointless to argue, no? You may try to really argue and bring a lot of reason. At the end of the day, you will find out that was all pointless. So what's the point of doing all of that when it was pointless, actually? And it is pointless. Arguing all that, whatever we are doing, is all pointless, actually, at the end of the day. Really, whatever the ignorant causes, there's no point in arguing to the ignorance. Why are you arguing to the mind, to the ignorance, It's business, actually, so to speak. It does what it does. And it cannot actually explain you why it does what it does. It is in its nature, right? So you can't say you can't do that. You can't say to the fire, oh, you can't burn me. Even if you say it, it doesn't matter. It will burn you. By definition, fire burns you. Remember this, there's this story. It's very vague in me, actually. But I think this is a folk story, actually. So, okay. A frog and Scorpio. They became friends. But then there was a lot of water. And so the Scorpio could not cross. And the frog says, you're my friend, but, if you don't bit me, I will carry you. Come on, you're my friend. Why would I do that to you? Why would I bit you? They're poisonous, right? And then the frog said, okay, very good. So he carries him. Some say they flew, but let's just say, the frog, he was carrying on that. And then right before they crossed that, he bit it. The Scorpio bit him. And then the frog, why did you do that? He said, I'm sorry. This is who I am. I do that. By nature, I'm that way. Something like this. It's just something, silly thing, it came to my mind, but anyways. But I find it very interesting, like human point of view, We see some people never change. In a way, there is a truth to that. It's not absolute truth, but it does not mean you cannot ever change. Maybe you're not doing enough to change yourself, so that's why we say, some people never change, as if some people change, So some people actually is old people, but we like to say some people never change. There's a truth to that. Grow, for example, and things like this. So it's by nature, it's like this. So anyway, coming back to that ignorance thing, it's like this. So what it meant here is like, what Khenpo is saying that, when you look at the mind from its very own, state, you don't find any of this existing in it at all. It's very simple. If you, to this mind, I do not exist. To this mind, they do not exist. It's not from the side of the mind, actually. I put it there. We imposed those thoughts onto the mind. Right? So, but from the mind's own side, there never was any of that. There never was I, you, they, anything. So then now you see what it meant by empty. Mind always had that freedom. We put it there. We actually always put a lot of things in our head, right, all the time. We shouldn't do that. We do. I know from my own point of view, really. Everything you are thinking, you put it there. Nobody else put it there. It's very easy to know, isn't it, actually? It was not there with you when you were born, were there. How can it be there when you were born? It's impossible, because things that you do not know cannot exist in your head. But then now you have all these three is in your head. Who put it there? It's a simple way of saying, I put it there. Really, we put it there. So, but from the yeah. So anyways, here, this is what it meant by coexisting, of the samsara nirvana, so-called, right, coexisting in that regard. What it meant in my understanding is, what you think now was the ground for all these, all these concepts that we have. It is the mind, correct? It is the true nature of the mind, is what I'm saying. The ground, there has to be ground, like the space, it's the mind. But the ground are not the things that is actually based on that. Like this table is not this book. So according to, okay, let's come up later on, actually, he will say that. Maybe a little bit from this point of view, we say alaya consciousness, correct, is the ground for what? Samsara. And then the Buddha nature mind is the ground for nirvana. But in reality, there are no two minds. It's just one mind. How can there be two minds, two different ground? It's just one ground. And that is the luminous nature of the mind. We like to say, it's a good word for it actually is a metaphor. This whistle, it's an example. Clarity, luminous, it's a metaphor. Like for example, ignorance is dark. It's a metaphor because you can't see it. So that's why it's like ignorance. And now you can see it. That's why it's wisdom. When there are light, you can see things. So mind is like that light where you can see things, where you can experience things. Anyways, so this thing called, mind, well, there are many actually, 3, right? I forgot the I forgot these 3 things. I can't remember. It's very strange, I think it's in my head, but I can't remember the names. Yeah, okay, anyways. If I don't remember it, I guess I don't remember it. Maybe it didn't want me to remember it, perhaps. All right, now I'll continue. Okay, what does it say? Therefore, as the victorious one has taught, all samsara and nirvana are just mind. Okay, that's fine. Just confirming it. We already had that many times before. Okay. Now comes the part where he's actually talking about the 8 consciousnesses. The causes, the condition, the interdependence have been taught by the Buddha to be 6 consciousnesses: the afflicted mental consciousness and the ground consciousnesses. These are the list of the 8 consciousnesses. All right. Yes. So, like I said yesterday, I'm guessing, or some other day, it is not that every school, actually asserts 8 consciousness. But most of the Chitramatra school, they do assert 8 consciousnesses. So what are the 8 consciousnesses? 5 of them are 5 consciousnesses of the sense consciousnesses, induced by our senses. So again, it's easy, but I have to mention it since it's mentioned here. I consciousness. We are not saying I, the eyeball is the consciousness, but with the help of the faculty and the object, those are the conditions, it induces, it helps the, to generate I consciousness. So this is uncommon. They have their very own exclusive, uncommon conditions, right? The faculty of the I faculty is exclusive to the I. That's actually very understandable. And also the form, the obvious form, the apparent form is uncommon objective condition for the eye, correct? When you see a form, what do you really see? How is a form seen? Shape and color, shape and color. We don't want to go into the details. Shape, if there's a shape, there must be a color. So then here, anyways, so they're exclusive to the eye. To the ear, again, it's very, so rest of them are understandable. All the faculties, the objective faculty and the condition and the faculty conditions are exclusive. For example, air, the air faculty is exclusive to it because it will not work for the eye, so to speak. And then its object is sound. It's exclusive to the ear conscious. But together, then they somehow, generate the hearing power. So we call that, ear, we call that ear consciousness. So I'm thinking there isn't really like different. The consciousness that sees is called eye consciousness. The consciousness that hears is called ear consciousness. It's not like, they are separate, one, and there's no, it's in general, it's mind, that's it. But due to these different conditions and exclusive, uncommon condition, especially with regard to the object faculty, then, they bring this different type of, generate different types of consciousness of the seeing, of the hearing, of the smelling, of the tasting, of the experience, and all of that, correct? It's not like there are 6 separate, things. It would be very funny, actually. So this is the meta consciousness we're actually talking about. Like I said yesterday, remember in the morning, in Abhidharma teachings, we talk about ayatanas, source of perceptions. This is what he's saying again. Source of perception in this case are the conditions, apprehending condition are the objects. They are called apprehending objects, apprehending conditions. And then the empowering conditions are the faculties, so that actually, source of perception. When these two kind of come together, then they generate that very particular consciousness of either seeing, hearing, or tasting, correct? So now you see why they are called ayatana, the source of perceptions. And then when you count 18 dhatus, elements, like I said yesterday, then the resultant, meaning then the consciousnesses are aided, the results are aided. 6 objects, 6 faculties, through them 6 kinds of consciousnesses are born as a result. Put them together, became 18. But the interesting part of that is how they really generate emotions. For example, through seeing, we experience jealousy, we experience attachment, we experience anger, we experience ignorance, we experience jealousy, pride, all of that. For example, when you see something pleasant, what is that? Craving. When you see something that you don't like, it's anger. And when you see something that you ignore, it's actually ignorance. So all the emotions are linked to our feeling. Can you see that? Attachment, pleasant is attachment, unpleasant is anger, and then unknown are actually ignorance. Most of things are unknown to us, that's ignorance. So through eye consciousness, you generate those kind of emotions. And then same with hearing too. You hear pleasant, unpleasant, normal, unknown. In my mind, I'm experiencing all those emotions. So this way, then with the 6, there are 6, let's say, doors. Each door produce three different emotions, feelings, correct? 18 different types of feelings. And this is true because the feeling you experience by hearing is not same as the feeling you generate by seeing or by touching, right? No. So 18 types of emotion. It can actually go much, much bigger. And this way, here again, the point was one thing is how do we experience that is what Kamava said earlier. As soon as there is that sort of meeting, meeting meaning they just come close. It's, physically, they don't have to touch. They need to be close to each other. Like for us to hear, we need to be close, correct? It doesn't mean we have to stand next to each other, put more like this. We know this. So here when you say meeting, people think, oh, that means these two come and must touch. If they don't touch, there is no electricity. No. It's a fact. We know that, faculties. Only ones that they don't need are the ones with the clairvoyance. So therefore, Buddhas, there is no distance. Distance doesn't matter to them. For us, it matters so much because we can't hear, from the, that's from the back of the wall. So distance. So when they come more closer, everything becomes more and more clear, right? So it means when we say contact, it means they must come closer and closer. And this is why when we are defect, we use, hearing aids and we use binocular, all that to bring them closer. Even I'm using this because, to bring it more closer. Even though it's so close, can't see it. I need the help of this guy here. So it's actually not touching. I mean, you don't see me touching like this. It actually block it. Anyway, I'm just saying the word contact in the top links of dependent origination. Remember, we call contact. Same thing like this. So anyhow, when they come very close to each other, this is the meaning of that. Now, another thing I was actually going to explain was, so come up early on said that, also I said, Vasubandhu says this, improper mode of thinking, right? Improper, incorrect view. I've been saying this last few days, and I want to repeat it because I think it's important for us to remember that. As far as the object is concerned, it's neutral. As far as the, condition is, it's also neutral. As far as the very first moment of the consciousness is also neutral. No problem, no emotion there. But then, all these emotions we experience is because somehow I interpret that object totally wrongly. And when I interpret that totally incorrectly, then desire, attachment, ignorance is actually produced. It's not produced by the object. It's not produced by the consciousness. It's also not produced by the very first fresh moment of the consciousness. But as soon as the arising of that incorrect, incorrect thought, incorrect view that incorrectly interprets or perceives the object as an object of desire, as an object of anger, right? So, there and then. So, there are meeting of four things or three things, right? You need the object closer. All these object, faculty, they need to be closer. When they're closer to each other, they generate a consciousness. And when the consciousness is generated, along with that, because of lack of clarity, because of lack of wisdom, then a misconception, this incorrect view is born. Actually, this incorrect view is because of the self-ego clinging, right? It's born. And that's what really deludes the rest of the process completely. So it becomes a process of clouded mind, so to speak, this way. Now imagine another thing. We cultivate bodhicitta, we cultivate refuge. That's not a wrong view, correct? It's a correct view, like I said yesterday. And when there's a correct view, then they become the source of, let's say, merit, sunam, either for liberation or for enlightenment. When I say liberation, it means, the liberation of the arhats in the Sharvakas, Pratyakas, and then, of course, the Buddhahood. Or merely a good merit for higher rebirth in the world. Just a good karma, actually, that's it. But nonetheless, these are all because of a correct view, the correct view. Sulshin Yila Chepa, we call it in Tibetan. In general, I'm not saying this for us to just accumulate good karma. Actually, I'm saying this so that we can have more and more accurate way of seeing things. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we really, really should try to perceive things more from, reality, more from correct point of view. Okay, it's very important to do that. In short, perhaps it means like when we are able to induce somewhat a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, in my understanding, that does the work. That does the work, and that is what generates the correct view. I have an intention, but that intention is induced by this, wisdom. So then it cannot be wrong, correct? Now, early on, I have this intention, but that intention was induced by ignorance or attachment or ego, let's say, self-clinging. It can never be right because it is wrong. By definition, ignorance is mistaken concept. So some of us who have been, studying dharma for long enough, we have accumulated, good amount of knowledge and wisdom. Now it's time for us to gather them together, okay? Really, we need to gather them together. How do you do that? You do that by trying to, reflect on them again and again and again. Self-reflection, like I was saying the other day, self-reflection. You must do that self-reflection again, how I am doing. Every day how I'm doing. It's a very good meditation. It's what I'm saying, I'm just saying it's a very good meditation. Growth. We really need to bring growth to us. We are very immature people. We really need some maturation from the wisdom point of view. How long you are going to be the way you are, actually. You don't have to be the way you are. So we need some maturity here, some growth, the inner growth. The inner growth is not a blessing. A lama cannot, sort of enter or somewhere and make, bring you that growth. I have to do it on my own. So that growth is really through learning, reflecting, basically, listening to the wise ones, and then at the same time using your own understanding of that. Your own understanding. At some point, then you are using your own understanding. You reflect, you use your own understanding. The more and more you do that, the deeper and deeper you get. There will be growth of everything, actually. This is the way of, generating a very strong realization, insight, really, actually, in us. So then you will see the result. We will see the result. So we cannot afford, actually, to be lazy in reality, right? Oh, okay, I was talking about 8 consciousnesses. So yes, and then we did talk about mental consciousness already, here and there. The 7th consciousness is called, Nyomong Pe Yi, which means the deluded mind actually. So this deluded mind, from the point of view of 12 links of dependent origination, the first dependent origination, the ignorance. We call it ignorance. Ignorance, self-clinging that is rooted in the ignorance actually. That's ego, because it basically means ego clinging. What it meant is quite interesting, and it's what does it really mean, ego clinging? Like, is there something ego? So in my understanding, it means like everything we're experiencing is called ego clinging. Like, so first of all, what I experience, what I see, is the production of the mental imprints of my mind, correct? Called pakcha, samskara, mental imprint. Mental impressions, habitual patterns of my own mental impressions, which, okay, that. When they kind of manifest, and then we start calling them names, we start imposing names onto them. This, that, like I said, enemy, friend, this, that, all of that. So this, now you can see that actually I'm holding on to all these mental thoughts, mental experience, mental feelings and emotions that is born from my own state of the mind. Those were, the mental impressions. So I'm clinging to my own manifestation of the mental impressions as those stuff out there, whereas they're not out there. So this is, literally it actually says that you cling to the 8th consciousness, the ground consciousness. Kunji, in Tibetan is Kunji Namshe, ground consciousness, as self. This is what it meant. And I find it very interesting because from when we look at the dream experience, we can see that very clearly. Of course, in my dream, I have all this attachment. I am drowning, I am flying, I'm crying, I'm burning. Whatever is happening, I am is there. And yet, nothing really is happening. If everything's happening in your own head, and yet not. What you're seeing is the manifestation of your mental impressions. What's seeing is also the mental impression of your own mind. The apprehended objects, the apprehender objects, all of them. It's a good example here. Likewise, same here too. So now when you think of that, then it seems like it's easy to know that actually there is no such thing as self. Self is created by grasping. We grasp something, we give it a name, we impose things onto them. We call imputation. Kundu takpa, we call kuntak. We have that habit. We have this habit. Someone is born, we give name to them. Every time when we invent something new, we give it a name, right? These smartphones, they have name. It didn't exist long time before. Now we have all these different smartphones. Their name, and now we think it is those names, but they are not. Like, an iPhone, for example. First when I heard that, I'm like, what is that? Really, I'm like, iPhone, like me phone, that is it. Now I'm so used to it, and I know what that means, but it doesn't mean anything. Things like this, So, as a child is born, then you give a name to that child. I guess there will come a time when you call the child an iPhone. What's your name? Oh, my name is an iPhone. And then everybody says, oh, he is iPhone. Is he really an iPhone? We impose things, everything. The reality from the side of the object is like, what are they doing exactly? I'm not that. I'm nothing. I'm like, I don't exist from that point of view. Every single entity, when you think of that, they are individually different. Every single entity has their own identity. When I pick up this phone, we call it phone, but every single, atom, item, entity in it is not an iPhone at all, correct? From the color to the shape to every single thing in this. I break it down into pieces and pieces and pieces to the extent that I see nothing, and yet there is something there. So it's like this. How you collect something, you put things together, it's a collection of things. And then a name is given. We immediately think, oh, that's that. Not only we think, oh, that exists truly. So we kind of that imagination. So that's, how what it meant by ego clinging. It's not only always me, me, me. Anything that's linked with me is all grasping. Basically, the word grasping is a good in my thinking, right? We grasp to everything that appears in our mind. But now you want to think from the appearance point of view. What do they think? Who do they think they are? Ask them. Ask a table, are you a table? If that's possible, Or a water. Ask water, are you water or are you fire? What about from the side of the object, phenomena, existence? Mind. It's the doing of the mind. In short, these are the doings of the mind. Okey-doke. And the ground consciousness. Namshe. Where is that? In third Kamapa Rangjundu, just Mahamudra prayer, yet? She says that. Dinye mato kore jatsu kor, dinye tona. Dinye mato kore jatsu kor, dinye tona sanje shename, tamche dinye dime kanyame chunye kunchi sanje parcho. Yes. Dinye mato kore jatsu kor. That means, because I did not understand the reality of the mind, that's why I'm wandering in samsara. Once when you realize what the mind is really all about, there is no other Buddha than that. Everything from samsara to Buddha is named to that one mind. Besides that mind, there is no samsara, there is no nirvana. You say, therefore, may all sentient beings realize the reality of the ground consciousness. Chunyi kunji sangri ruparcho. Chunyi kunji sang. Now there's a touch of, anyways, there's a touch of stuff which I don't want to go into. But a good stuff, actually. All right. So yes, if you read, Kamapa's prayer, it's not really prayer. Somehow we call it. In Tibetan, we actually don't call it prayer. I guess we call it, we do call it Chakchimelam. Yes, it's true. But it's teaching on Mahamudra and teaching on nature of the mind, and very much from the absolute point of view. So if you read that, then you will, find a lot of things, good things, that actually he also says here, he says there. It's very much similar, same, yet different, this kind of thing, So from time to time, you want to go back, I'm not saying you have to read the whole thing. Just pick up whatever you can pick up, concentrate on that, try to understand that. It's very, very profound teaching, the Mahamudra. It's at the end of the day, it's teaching on mind, absolute nature of the mind. Just one phrase is enough, but there are 25 phrases, so he's pretty much repeating himself, but very differently, in a very wise manner, in a very, very wise way. How much can you actually say, about one thing? There isn't really so much to say, so much to do. It's Dharma Dhatu, that's the end of it. Then you write hundreds of books on that, In Tibetan, we have these Madhyamika books, endless Madhyamika books. But they're just talking about one single thing, emptiness. It must be really sometimes very strange for, in the people in the West, like, it's one book, like there's only one subject, but there are like hundreds of books on one subject. But they're actually saying the same thing. How can they not say the same thing because they are saying the same thing? It's crazy, no? But we have. So, again, everything in that book is again saying the same thing. From the beginning, in the middle, in the end. Saying same thing. If you catch it in the beginning, you do not need to go to the middle or the end. It's because we don't catch it. Even in the end, we don't catch it. We have to redo everything. It's just when we don't get it at all. So then they get tired, It's like they don't get it. So we need to get it, right? If you get it, you get it. That's it. No, really, I'm not actually joking or anything, but this, it's the reality. It sounds funny, but, it is funny, and yet not really funny is the truth. Somehow we don't really get it. Well, at least I really don't get it. But enjoy not getting it, I'm guessing. Because I have something to say, something to think, like, oh, I got it. Actually, I did not get it. I get it, I did not get it. When I get it, it's like this. Oh, that's interesting. So it pushed you a little bit, like, oh, okay, no, I got it. And then my teacher says something, I'm like, oh, I actually didn't get it. I become very like long face for a few days. And then I got it. And then my teacher says something, and then I'm, oh, really, I got it, okay? So you are very happy now, kind of pride like this. And then there comes a day when we say something, and then it's like, what are you saying? It's not right. I'm like, what? I'm not right? I was not right all along. Oh, my goodness. That's called growth. I'm just kidding. That's how you grow. Don't worry about that. Our teacher, Khenpo Gyamtso, I don't know if he's still alive. Anyways, used to say that, Norching Yamda Namlanju. He says the way to arrive to that state is by making mistakes. Like we say, you learn from your mistakes. But I don't know if that is, true with everybody, right? Somebody don't actually learn also. But usually those who learn, then you learn it from your mistakes. Same thing I'm saying. I guess I'm saying the same thing, right? All right. Okay. The six okay, let me check. Yes. The six consciousnesses are dependent on objective conditions, which are the six sensory objects of form and forth. The primary conditions are the six sensory objects, which are the clarity and dot with the form. The source of six consciousnesses, I already said it, but I'm going to read the root text out for you. Both faculties and objects are from the mind. Arise from the mind. This manifestation of sensory objects and faculties is dependent upon an element that has been present throughout the beginningless time. Okay. uh, through a sensory consciousness perceives an object, its particular characteristics are known by the mental event of the identification, which is dependent upon the mental consciousness, the immediate mentality and the afflicted mentality. We went through all of this actually. The first of this, he's talking about the condition, the apprehending condition, the, empowering condition, faculties, and then the mental condition. The immediate condition is the mental faculty. So he's talking about that, which I already explained in brief. The first one of this is immediate because it is the condition for arising and ceasing of the six consciousnesses. It occurs in the same numbers as those of the momentary arising and ceasing of the six consciousnesses. It can be known by the mind that is a yoga endowed, and through the teachings of the victorious ones. Okay, the last part is actually very good. So how do we know, how do we know, or what can help us to know? What mind is the mind that realizes, let's say, the truth? So in Tsema teaching, we talk about Tsema Pramana teachings, and teachings on the mind. Like we talk about the direct perceptions. Muslim Tsema, right? I think four direct, we talk about four direct perceptions. The direct perceptions of the senses, all the sense, they are also called direct perception. Valid, direct perception, so they are not mistaken. Then mental direct perception. And then the yogic direct perception. And the fourth one is the, self-awareness direct perception. Yogic direct perception is this is what he was saying that. Let me check. Yes, but there was something else. Yeah. First, let's go to that. It means yogi or yogini. I'm sorry, yogini as well. There are lots of yoginis. We used to say yogis, yoginis, really. But they are, it basically meaning the insight of the realized beings of the male and female, right? Their wisdom. You're talking the wisdoms of the realized beings, of the male and female. They are the one who actually knows this, regarding the mind. But then how do they arrive to that conclusion, to this, realization? Then through learning, reflecting, and meditating. It is through the learning and the reflecting and the meditating that they gain insight into the mind. And then they analyze it over and over and over again through their mind, correct? So this is called yogic direct perception. It's not, I said a little bit about the direct perception yesterday also. First, it's not direct because we see everything, like when you hear from a teacher, you read the book, and then you also reflect, are they real? They're not, are they direct? They're not direct. Yes, you are getting closer and closer to understanding of the nature of the mind, but you don't yet have a very direct experience of that. You still have an experience, but those experiences are induced by the wisdom of the learning, by the wisdom of the reflecting. So it's not a direct experience, it's still an indirect experience. So, but then there comes a day when it becomes a direct, actually, so to speak. The meditation, learning, reflecting, meditating. That meditating part is a direct. It means everything's happening in this very present moment. Also, it means without the help of any other conditions whatsoever. So far, whatever insight, realization I enjoyed was with the help of a lot of conditions, right? From the teacher, from the book, and from my own reflecting. So therefore, they were valid? Yes. They were direct. It was not exactly a direct yet. It was experienced, with the help of that. This is what it meant. So anyway, let's not go into this too much into the yogic. Basically, like, the wisdoms of the arhats, wisdoms of the bodhisattva, wisdoms of the Buddha. That, or Mahasiddha, we can call them, the Mahasiddhas. Like, it's victorious ones. Through the teachings, it says yoga and dot. That means yogic direct perception. And through the teachings of the victorious ones. That's Buddha's teachings, right? Through the teachings of the Buddha. In Tibetan, we have something called lungtsema. Yesterday, I said this briefly. There are those objects that are not hidden. So we don't need the help of any logic, any reasoning. You see it very directly. Like I see this directly, there's no need for help, and so this direct perception. But then there's many, many things that are not direct. Like, for example, most of things are not direct. Like our mind, our experience, impermanence, they're not direct. So then, how can we gain the knowledge of their existence? Right? We gain the knowledge of their existence by learning actually about them, right? By reflecting on them. So, like the more and more we think about impermanence, emptiness is also same actually. We don't have the direct connection or realization of emptiness yet. But that does not mean we cannot have it forever. We can. But the way to get there is through the, indirect valid perceptions. So the indirect and its valid perception eventually gets us that very direct experience, actually, so to say. Just like I gave you this example yesterday of the swan, You see a swan, then you get the idea there must be water because they're always close to the water. And you see a smoke, then that will help you to have this idea there must be fire. And you are actually, most of the time, you're never wrong. So it's valid. Those signs are valid. But are you seeing the fire and the water directly? No. But you gain this understanding with the help of those things. Likewise, right now, we reflect, we meditate on impermanence and emptiness and karma, especially impermanence and emptiness. So these are called indirect, hidden object. Those hidden objects, slightly hidden we call it, slightly hidden. Hidden objects are emptiness, impermanence, subtle impermanence actually. And then, like I said yesterday, karma. Karma is the most hidden object. So therefore, we say the only way to understand that actually is, by depending on the teaching of the Buddha. We call lungtsema. Again, it's a lot of things. First, we prove that Buddha is an omniscient being, a valid person. In Sema, in order to prove that he is a valid individual, we prove that his speeches are individual. It's like, in order to prove that his realization is, valid, then we have to prove that he is a valid individual. To prove that he's a valid individual, we have to prove that his teachings are, valid, meaning truthful. If it is truthful, it's valid, like an honest person, same like that. So and I said a lot of things, but here it's actually about, even for a bodhisattva, there are those some things that's still hidden from them. And this is actually the law of the function of the karma. It's inconceivable. There are many, many things that are inconceivable even to the bodhisattvas, but not to the omniscient wisdom of the Buddha. Like the power of the medicine, power of the phenomena, reality of the phenomena, then karma and the omniscient wisdom. So they are inconceivable except for the eyes of wisdoms of the Buddha, actually, so to speak. Here he's saying same thing. That that's why it's called omniscient, Tamche Khenpo, meaning that means this wisdom is the wisdom that nothing is hidden from it whatsoever. It's pretty much that mean. It doesn't mean there's a mind with a lot of miracle powers. It never means that. This miracle power is not a Buddhist thing. Okay? So we don't need that. It's actually about that. Again, it's interesting, for me, like, for example, they should not be hidden, right? The truth is hidden from you. It should never be hidden, but it's hidden. It's hidden by our ignorance. It's hidden by our, yes, actually ignorance. We call obscurations. Obscurations. So they are gradually and gradually and gradually. We'll talk about that, through the path, through the bhumis. That's what they're doing. They are gradually and gradually, they fade. As the power of their meditation grows, then the strength of these obscurations fade, actually. They disappear. They just fade, become weaker and weaker and weaker, and then they also absolutely disappear forever, for good, actually, for good. This is what it meant by reaching the enlightenment. We'll come to that later on when we talk about the wisdoms part of that. So now you can see how important it is to learn, to reflect and meditate. Because without learning, without reflecting, without meditating, there is no ground for that. They are conditioned, like I said, they are all conditioned. But they're conditioning my own inner, innate power of the wisdom, the Buddha nature mind, the Tathagata Garbha. It's there all along with all these misconceptions. It's there all along, right? We all know that. Like I already quoted the line from the Buddha nature mind. Semji Rangche Sar Kanyimba. Semji Rangche. Semji Rangche. Semji Rangche Sar Kanyimba. Tene Namka Shinto Jurmete. Yangta Minto Legion, Lobotimi Momijo. Yes. So he says like, that the luminous, stainless, all-knowing nature of the mind is unchanging, just like the space. These adventitious, temporary obscurations do not at all whatsoever alter it. They do not have the power to alter it at all. They just stay there, like the sun and the cloud. But in reality, there is no connection between them. Obscuration remains obscuration, the reality remains the reality. So it's always there all along, just like that example. I get this many times. So cutting through that, all this wind, wind and whatever blows away that, like learning, reflecting, meditating, it's like that wind, it's like this condition that removes the obscuration, that removes the cloud. But they did not create the space, did they? They didn't. They didn't create the sun, they didn't. So all this mind that we talk about, obscurations are all these minds are the obscurations. 8 consciousness, 6 consciousness, 10 consciousness, 9 consciousness. We do count. Some say 2, some say 9, doesn't matter. They are the obscurations. They induce obscurations. So one rises, beyond that actually. All right, I think I need to stop here, I'm guessing. Okay, I'll stop here. I'll take a few questions if you like. If no question, we can also stop.
much, Khenpo, for teaching.
Thank you.
Could you please explain about 8th consciousness, alaya, and how if it's related to 7th consciousness, and which way?
Okay. It's actually coming up. The 8th consciousness and consciousness is still coming up. So in short, 8th consciousness is actually very simple. It basically functions as the ground. On its own, it's actually not a thought at all. It's neutral. By its own nature, it's neutral. Like space, actually, like space. Space is the ground for everything to arise, everything to disappear, But space is none of those things that appears within it. Likewise, this, consciousness. The 8th ground consciousness is, like the space, which only and only functions as that. But here actually two kind to that, For example, the resultant ground consciousness is what we are right now. I'm seeing this human existence, human experience. All of these manifestations are the manifestation of my own mental impressions. So this actually is the manifestation of my alaya consciousness, we can call it. But I'm seeing that in the form of whatever I'm seeing right now. So that's called resultant. And then the seedling, we can call it. There's meaning my future existence, all of my future existence from now on, they are stored in the consciousness as a seed. So those are actually called, the seed alaya consciousness. This is how we actually differentiate that. So this is pretty much really the definition of that. Then sometimes there, I think in Madhyamika Avatara, yes, I think, Chandrakirti says like ocean and the waves. So it says ocean itself is like the alaya. The waves are like all these things that's coming out of it, so to speak. Those are the examples we have for the alaya. But as far as like I already said, the 7th consciousness is really, it is named to this grasping mind, that grasp as me, that grasps as phenomena, that grasping attitude of the mind is named as 7th consciousness. So it's generally we say the ego clinging. Like I said, in the 12 links of dependent origination. The very first one, ignorance. That ignorance is the one actually, because that ignorance, ego clinging, that's rooted in the ignorance, correct? That's rooted in ignorance. This is what it meant by that 7th consciousness, Nyumobi.
Khenpo, my question just actually follows up because I had more or less the same question. When we purify, are we purifying the alaya, the ground consciousness, or the 7th one?
This is still, we are going to go through that, So, okay, so now I said, in our, so this book, like I said, is very simple. First, he talks about what is samsara by explaining, how these different types of consciousness brought about samsara. This is what we're talking about right now. And now, when he finished this, then he also will talk about what is Buddhahood. So when he explains the Buddhahood, then he will explain the wisdoms, because there's, wisdoms are the Buddhahood. So then this is when we are going to learn about that. And how the wisdoms are gained is what we are going to talk in the coming 2 or 3 days. So these are all actually coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you hear? So I have a question, maybe it's out of the topic, but it's from third Karmapas Mahamudra wishes. And there is a there is a line that mind is not a mind, it's empty in essence. Is it he referring to this 8 consciousnesses idea that there are not 8 consciousnesses, but mind is empty by essence?
Okay. When he says mind is emptiness, he's saying generally, right? Generally, so it can mean consciousness. Of course, it means all the mind. So, not when mind is, all of them are mind. It's general name for all the 8 consciousnesses, all of them. So therefore, all of them are emptiness. It's not like 8 is emptiness, but the rest is not. So therefore, it means all of them are emptiness in that case. Also, when we say 8 consciousness emptiness, it's also same, by saying that, we are also saying that rest of the mind are also emptiness. So, okay, so I'm going to dedicate now. Oh, I don't need that. Senam de damje zigba nye tona nye pe dana pamche che ga na che bala e tuba ye se be anzo le do wa re sho ge wan de ye ke wo ye ke senam ye che zo zo senam ye che le chong wa tamba ke nye to pa re sho Minjaro lombo kuya tashi sho yen lai tukjo songge tashi tada teme tukje tashi sho gyalwe konsong tukje tashi sho. Thank you, everyone.